Hi everybody, thanks for joining me today. Today I'm going to show you how to do clusters for the top of earrings and for charms on bracelets. And to start, I wanted to demonstrate how I wire wrap on a ball head pin. This is a 24 gauge bronze metal ball head pin. And to start with, I'm holding it with my round nose pliers, and I'm going to take my chain nose pliers, I'm going to roll it over my round nose pliers. And so here I have a little bit of a curve with the wire over the top. And then I rotate my pliers up and around at an angle here, and kind of shows you a little bit. I'm not sure what the degree is, maybe like 45 degrees, but I tilt my round nose pliers at an angle. And then I take the tail and I'm gonna go back and around over the round nose pliers. This forms a loop. And then I go and I curve my wire underneath the loop and over the top of the bead that I'm working with a few times, and cut off excess wire and pinch close. Now, if you want to have more of a thicker wire look, you can go back over like I just did, and you'll have a little bit more of a heavier coil as you're going back around. If you don't want to go back up and you just want to go down the one time, that works, and it just gives you a little bit of a thinner wire look. And then I pinch close. And when I'm pinching close, I use my chain nose pliers to flatten it in there so that way it is not an exposed wire end. You want it to be as flush as possible so something can't rub against it. So here's one done. So I'm going to go through and do a few of these, and then I'll show you how I form my clusters. And the earrings are usually a little bit different from the bracelet. The earrings use smaller beads, so I will be wire wrapping some smaller ones to demonstrate for the earrings as well. You can probably hear my cats in the background. I hope everyone is having a good day wherever you are, and thanks for joining me here and for liking and subscribing. I really appreciate it. And it depends on how long of a cluster you want and how large the beads are. If these are 3x5 Rondells, if you're using 4mm, you'll have to wire wrap more to have a cascading dangle look. If you're using my smaller ones, you will also need more for an effect. So the larger you go, the less you need. And also there are different ways of attaching clusters. So like if you want to have it more like larger with more beads, there's one way. And if you want to have it thinner with more of a cascading look, then there's another way. So I'll demonstrate both ways today. So I'm going to wire wrap some beads and I'll be right back. Okay, so I finished wire wrapping the glass for the bracelet, and there are two different ways I do this. It depends on what look I'm going for. If I want to have more of a long look, I do it one way. If I want to have more of a short cluster, I do it another way. Usually I do the long way. So for this particular style, I use a 3mm jump ring. I get my jump rings at Hobby Lobby. I feel like these are some of the best quality jump rings I've ever used. They're a nice thick metal. I get the heavy gauge ones and they don't fall apart. So to start, I take the smaller and I'm going to add 2 beads to this. And if you want to have a larger cluster, I do it differently with a different size jump ring. Since I want it longer and I want them spaced out, I'm just going to add a blank jump ring on this one with nothing attached. Also, I like doing it this way because it helps the stones lay sideways all the way down. If you do a cluster, like on my earrings, it will stack them on top of each other. So I have my empty ring. I'm going to attach another ring to the empty one and add 2 beads. The other thing is you want your jump rings to be in the center and separating the beads, so they lay side by side. So I have these two. I have the connecting jump ring in the center of the 2 beads. So that way as they're laying down, They lay down side by side and not on top of each other. So again, I'm going to just pick whichever one I want, whichever end I want, and add an empty ring. Grab another one. And attach another 2 beads. And again, I'm making sure it's in the center. So like when I attach the ring, that way I have a bead on each side. When I close this. So you can see the tail starting to form where the beads will fall. Here we go. On each side. I'll kind of take a look. Whoop. Okay. There we go. They're falling on each side. So I'm going to do one more, and then this particular one is finished for the bracelet it goes with. So I'm going to attach these 2 guys on a ring. And again, I want to make sure it's in the middle between the 2 beads. If it matters, that way they're separated like so. So it's in between the 2 beads from the previous connector. And then this particular one is done. So when it lays down, they'll be side by side going down on the bracelet. Now, I just finished these pairs of earrings. Earrings are kind of similar with how you put the jump ring in the middle of the bead clusters. That way they stay separated. Here's a close-up of these. And you can tell how I have them on each side on the earring. These are smaller. I have a larger jump ring and they're separated differently. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this one apart. So for earrings, it depends on if it's top or bottom. If it's on the bottom, I do this bracelet style where it's the elongated with a jump ring that's doesn't have anything on it in between each connecting stone. The earrings on the top, I put together differently. So because this is a heart shape, I had to add an extra jump ring for space. You want to have a little bit of space between the stones and where the pendant falls. That way it's not covering up the pendant when you add the stones. So I'm gonna go ahead and take these off on this side. The other thing with cluster earrings, when you're doing certain directions, you want to have a different amount. So when I have stones coming up this direction facing over the charm, I add 2 stones on the front and the back. I don't add 3 because it's too heavy and then they like kind of lay on top of each other and it looks awkward to me. It's just my own personal preference. So I only put 2 stones. So I have 2. These are going on the front. I'm going to attach them here through this jump ring. And for earrings, I use 6mm when I'm doing the smaller stones. So that way I have more space on the jump ring to stack the stones. That way, you need to have space with the larger jump ring so they lay comfortably. Whereas if you have too small of a jump ring, it won't have enough room on the jump ring to support multiple stones. And they just kind of stack on top of each other if you can fit them and it looks weird. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and close this one. I'm just gonna get out of my... Okay, so for this we have 2 on the front, 2 on the back. I like to have 2 on the back and the front, or equal amount of stones so it's balanced. And then for the next one, I'm gonna open this guy. I do not have an empty jump ring. So for earrings, my next step is to add 3 stones. So I have 3 on the left, 3 on the right, basically. And let me grab this. Okay, so we have the 2 stones, front and back. I slide my jump ring through the previous jump ring that's on there. And I'm going to add 3 more stones. And then close this jump ring. So front to back, I have 2 stones, and left to right, I have 3 stones. And here you have an idea of what it looks like. And I just feel like it looks so nice and balanced. You want to have the 2 stones on the front because they'll lay nicely over the charm and they don't stack up on top of each other. They just lay really nice and it doesn't look as messy. And then when I go left to right, I have 3 stones. I do 3 again because it doesn't look like they're stacked in a big pile on top of each other. You can see the stone colors and it's a nice balance. And this one is done, so I'm just going to go ahead and add my ear wire, and I add the ear wire to the center of the jump ring with stones on either side. And here you go. So I just think they look so much nicer balanced out when you have a smaller cluster, and also when it's at the top near their ear wire, you have extra space to support the beads and they're not crammed on top of a charm. So here are the earrings that I finished. And if I have an attachment on the bottom with rings, what I do is I have an empty ring. I don't have any earrings to demonstrate that with at the moment, but if I have the connector holes at the bottom, I will start with an empty 3mm jump ring. And then I connect to this empty jump ring and start my clusters going down. And because I like to space them out similar to how I do the bracelet one, you have the empty jump ring in between the stone clusters. So then they hang from the bottom of the earring and they'll do a nice elongated pattern going down without being a messy cluster like this. They'll just hang long and straight. And I attach them to the pendant with an empty jump ring. So that way it's not too much on the charm either. It just gives it a nice balanced flow going down the base of the earring charm. And there you go. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me a message. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and TikTok, and here on YouTube. And thank you for liking and subscribing and sharing, and have a great day.